Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm just going to wait for you guys to trickle in before I get into it. Say hi in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from. If this is your first time, definitely say hi. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Hi, YouTube. Hi, Facebook. Hi, Instagram. Good morning, Chef Pascal. Good morning, she bada boss from Texas. Good morning, T Miles, love from the city of Angels. Hey, hi, Folks Kingdom. Um, okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Aisha Chidole. I'll be doing this live. See, I'm giving you my consultation spiel. Anyway, my name is Aisha Chidole. I'm an immigration attorney, and I represent clients all over the United States with their family immigration matter. I'm specifically located in Atlanta, but I take clients all over the US. We have an office in Florida, we have an office in Atlanta, but again, we take clients all over. If you want to schedule a consult, you can call 407-995-6567. You can also send a WhatsApp to 404-333-8751. So today is really just frequently asked questions on VAWA. I know I get a lot of questions about VAWA. So this is your opportunity to ask the questions, and a few of you have asked, do I only take VAWA cases? No, I don't only take VAWA cases. I also take marriage-based cases. I take fiance K-1 visa cases. I do TPS, I do conditional green cards, petitioning for your parent, your child, your sibling, conditional green cards, essentially everything related to family immigration I assist with. So, you can always consult me for any of that. So Edna Marie says, please always pin the number under the live. Edna, I don't know if I can pin it on, let me see if I can pin it on Instagram, but on the other lives, it's pinned on there, but I'm gonna try. Let me try and type it in here, and then you let me know if I was able to pin it. Let's see. Oh, look at that. So I pinned it. So can you guys see my number? That's my number. So you can call me to schedule a consultation. All right, let's see what we have here. So good morning from New York. Good morning, Samantha Briggs. Good morning, Mr. Ken. Good morning, Pretty Glory. And Richard Samara from Jamaica. Good morning. Oh, Pretty Me World says this is my first time from Indianapolis. My name is Bumi. Hey, welcome. Good morning, Brandon. New York, New Jersey in the house. Good morning, Nicolette. Okay, so guys, let's just dig into it. So let me just see if you guys have questions for me. Someone is asking a question about EB3. I don't handle EB3s. I only handle family immigration. So if you want an EB3 visa, you're better off speaking with an employment business immigration lawyer, and they'll be able to help you with that, okay? Digital footprints, good morning. Isn't it super early where you are? Hey, Ashani. Okay, so T-Mal says, kindly discuss the requirements that will qualify a valid candidate and timeline for each phase. Oh, okay, so I might not be able to get to all of the timeline. Guys, just give me 1 second. Let me fix my light. It's about to fall off. So I might not be able to discuss all of that right now, but I'll try to get to as much of it as I can. So first things first, when you have a valid case, well, to determine if you have a valid case, there are a few things that you have to establish. So let me just focus on marriage, since most of the time it's related to marriage, but I'll just touch on also children and parents. And forgive me if I'm going left to right, because I've got two screens that I'm using. So first things first, you first of all have to establish that you have a good faith marriage. What is a good faith marriage? First of all, are you free to marry? Were you free to marry? Did you properly divorce your other spouse? If you didn't divorce your other spouse properly, you're not going to pass the good faith standards. So if you're from a country where right now USCIS has a big problem with your divorce decrees, divorce certificates, you want to make sure that you have an authentic divorce. If you don't have an authentic divorce, you can go through this whole process and they will deny you just on that basis alone. Now, once you establish that you have an authentic divorce, the next thing is making sure that your marriage is in fact a good faith marriage. And what do they look at? They look for things that they consider or they call bona fide evidence of a real marriage. I know, a lot of time people ask, well, what is a bona fide evidence? I have my marriage certificate. Your marriage certificate doesn't prove anything at all other than you had a legal wedding. Bona fides is they want to see how you're living your life together. And you could sort of like park those into different categories. One category would be considered financial entanglements, right? If you're able to show that you and your spouse are tied financially, and that could be in very different ways, whether that's how you share your bank accounts, how you file your taxes, how you pay bills, if you're mortgages together, rents, anything that relates to money, credit cards, those things would be considered under evidence of financial entanglement. Then the other thing that they look at is matters of the heart, and just to establish that there is actually a relationship. Things like if you have a child together, if you guys have been dating for a long time, maybe you have sweethearts before you married, like evidence of all those things and your relationship, you've gone on trips, you've hung out with family, you've done all these wonderful things. If you're able to show those things, you will meet those requirements. And then the last thing, which is kind of like it's its own category, but we want to put them together, is really cohabitation. So, there is no timeline for how long you have lived with your spouse when you're submitting a VAWA application, but you must show that you cohabitated, meaning you lived together for at least some time here in the United States. Of course, there are some exceptions if you're in the military, the U.S. military, and you've been stationed, abroad or wherever you've been stationed to. But generally, you want to show some sort of cohabitation here in the U.S. And how do you prove cohabitation? Anything that, well, one, of course, you can always get affidavits from people. If you have leases, you can always provide that. If they're not, a lot of times with abusers, they're very strategic where they don't want any paper trail or they don't want their spouse to be listed on anything. If it's one of those situations, you're really going to rely heavily on affidavits or any other sort of supporting evidence, like mails that come into the house that might have your name or the address, even if you're not listed on the bills. Like if your name is, like on any what am I going to say, like insurance or car notes or any of those things. So even though your name is not necessarily on the utility, if your names are on those things, on the bank accounts or your driver's license or your ID card, those are things that you can use to show good faith cohabitation. And then, other things that are good is like if you have children and, maybe you listed the one spouse as maybe the emergency contact, even if they're a step parent, that's still good because, you're showing that, clearly you're okay, you trust this person with your child. So those are some of the things that you got to show, for good faith marriage and cohabitation. Then you have to show what we call extreme cruelty and abusive behavior by your spouse. One thing I want to talk about in particular is infidelity, right? I want to talk about infidelity for a second. So infidelity meaning your spouse is cheating on you, whether that's physically cheating, emotional cheating. And a lot of times when people say, my spouse has been so wonderful to me, I just found out that he cheated on me with this one chick and stuff like that. That, without anything else, will make a very hard case for extreme cruelty and abuse. Because you just have to say, okay, your spouse is a jackass, they cheated on you, but it's not extreme cruelty or abuse. However, if you're able to show a pattern of behavior with infidelity, a pattern of being unfaithful, a pattern of putting you at risk of STDs, or the emotional trauma that comes from that infidelity. Because for some people, they're like, it's what it is, like moving on. But for some people, it is traumatic. So really, the goal is to be able to communicate to an adjudicator why this is so traumatic for you. Because to somebody else, it's like, okay, my spouse cheated on me, or whatever the case may be. But if you're able to show the psychological damage, especially like when you have that one time, let's say you have that one time infidelity and you're pregnant, you're a high risk pregnancy, and how that affects you, and you go into early labor, like all these things, which sort of shows the lack of consideration. Well, all infidelity is lack of consideration, but you get what I'm saying. So those are some things, but generally they want to see a pattern of that bad behavior. Cruelty is not necessarily physical, and I've said this, a couple of times, that you don't have to have physical abuse. People come to me and will say, oh, I went to this other person or whatever the case may be, and they told me I don't have physical abuse. I mean, I'm sure some of my clients are on live and they will tell you, the ones that have their green cards, that didn't have physical abuse, and how we won their case. Because abuse can happen, from the mind, from a mental standpoint, from a psychological and emotional standpoint. Abuse is also sexual, right? Abuse can be financial, abuse can be verbal. You can have abuse of the legal system, where they abuse the legal system. Let me use this great example, and I'm going to use men and women for a second, where, because I would say that the U.S. tends to generally sway on the side of women who allege that a man has been abusive to them, or has raped them, or has molested them. I mean, I'm sure you guys watched the circus that was Johnny Depp, and it was great for him to get that vindication, as a male, just so that men who are dealing with this are not afraid to come forward. Because most times, for a lot of them, they worry so much that they're going to believe their female counterpart. I've had a situation with a client, literally, where the client was arrested at his place of work, saying that he abused his wife and physically beat up his wife that day. Meanwhile, he had not been to that house in 3 days, right? And that client could have easily, due to the fear that sometimes, prosecutors or defense attorneys place on you, plead guilty. But I remember saying to him, I said, did you do this? And he was like, I didn't do it. I did not do it. I said, do you have your witness, your alibi? And he said, I have everybody at my work. They can show you what time I clock. And I said, then do not take a plea. If you got to sleep in jail for a few days, sleep in jail for a few days. He slept in jail for a few days, got out of jail, fought that, and he was found not guilty, right? And ultimately, he won his VAWA case, But, so in that situation, that is an example of abuse of the legal system. And that is extremely cruel. I know that client experienced PTSD now every time they see the cops, because you're like, oh, did she accuse me of something else? Are they coming to take me? Can you imagine how humiliating it is being at your place of work, and you have all these cops show up to arrest you? So those are some things that, I would say would fall under the category of abuse. And then one other thing that's really important is to show that you have good moral character. So generally, USCIS goes back 3 years from the date of the application. But even though they go back 3 years from the date of application, sometimes they have the discretion to go further back. So let's say you came into the United States in 2021 and you're filing your VAWA in 2022. While we can do a clearance for you here in the US, you still want to provide evidence that, even outside of the US, you had no criminal records and you're a person of good moral character. If you're not able to get criminal records, being able to have an affidavit and swear under penalty of perjury that you've had no issue is helpful. In the US, we definitely want to do the FBI search and get a clearance for you. So those are some of the requirements. From a timeline standpoint, and this is after this, and I'll move on to the next question. From a timeline standpoint, most VAWA cases from start to finish take anywhere from 2 years to 2.5 years. And during the process, there are different things that come along, prima facies, come anytime between 3 to 5 months. Sometimes it's a little later, sometimes it's earlier. Again, when I give you guys timelines, it's not because it must happen then. There's some people that their stuff is going to happen later, and some people their stuff is going to happen earlier, right? And then after that, if you submitted an adjustment of status application with your stuff, then you would get your work permit or your travel permit. Those are usually coming around 5 to 9 months. Knock on wood, my own personal clients were seeing 5.5 months to 6 months in the last month. But again, I really don't know if that's across the board. So the window is normally 5 to 9 months. Even for some people, 10 months. And then, after that, they make a decision on your case. After they approve you for VAWA, that's when they actually schedule you for your green card interview. So that is kind of how it works, okay? Okay, somebody said, well, my husband said, pin your WhatsApp number. And all right, guys, let me pin the WhatsApp number and the phone number, or WhatsApp. So give me a second to pin that. Trying to go live and multitask is not fun. 8751. Okay, so let's see if this works. Pin comment. Okay, so let me know if you can see both the phone number and the WhatsApp number. Now, somebody on Facebook says, please, can I travel after an interview? I personally would not recommend it. If you already had your interview, I would suggest that you should wait because, we don't know how your interview went. We don't know if you're getting an NOID. We don't know if you're getting a denial. So you don't want to be, chilling in Jamaica or wherever you're chilling and you get a denial, and when you're trying to come back, they're like, you got denied. So definitely, if you already had your interview scheduled, I will say just chill out and just wait until they make a decision on your case, okay? Okay, you guys can see it. Awesome. All right, let me, someone says, what if you have a pending case in the US? Can you still file for a green card based on marriage? What do you mean you have a pending case? What kind of case do you have already? Because the answer will depend. Basically, you cannot have 2 485s. So if you have 2 485s, you're going to have to let go of one. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, so Tyler says sometimes verbal and emotional abuse is much worse. Absolutely, it is much worse. Someone says, that's what if a spouse got married to someone else for money while still legally and truly married to me? Is that extreme cruelty? Well, one, that is bigamy, and that is extreme cruelty. And that's something that we can definitely evaluate because, bigamy is obviously illegal in the United States. And, just basically evaluate to see how that affects you, because sometimes there's no label that define something as extreme cruelty. I mean, there are patterns of behavior, but ultimately it's how does it make you feel as a person? How has it affected you psychologically and emotionally? If you've done an evaluation, what is your therapist saying? Is your therapist saying that you have PTSD? Is your therapist saying that you're suffering from major depression from this? Are you suicidal? So there's so much, that goes into it. You know what I mean? So Madao Bucci Jeeves says, I can't wait to see you on the consultation today. I'm looking forward to that because I need help out of this control and abusive marriage. Awesome. I can't wait to see you too as well. Okay, let me take some questions on Facebook. Leslie says, keep doing the wonderful work. Thank you so much. YouTube, Vibe said, I missed my biometrics appointment. I called and they told me to wait 60 days. 3 days passed and no response as of yet. What should I do? Honestly, you have to wait. It takes a while to reschedule. Sometimes it can take a few months. So if you've called them and they said they will reschedule you, they'll most likely reschedule you. It's just going to be delayed and it's going to delay your process. Guys, do not miss your biometrics appointment. It's really a nightmare getting it rescheduled. Do whatever you can to schedule your appointment. If, let's say, you miss your appointment on, let's say your appointment was at 3 p.m. Like, oh crap, it's 5 p.m. I forgot today was my appointment. In those situations, you can just go to a biometrics office and beg them. You know, sometimes they'll give you pushback, but sometimes you have people that are nice that will let you. So it's really up to them, but you can do that if it's not too long since you missed your appointment. Okay. Beverly, good morning from Colorado. Good morning, Sherry. Madabuchi says, I have a question for you. Are you an Igbo woman? Because your name sounds Igbo. Yes, I'm Igbo. Even though Aisha is absolutely not Igbo, it's, you know, an Arabic name, but I am Igbo. My last name is Igbo because I married to an Igbo man. Okay. I got married last week to a Jamaican husband. Congratulations. He has a visitor's visa, which he got last year. Will his visa be at risk for me to file for him? Well, it depends on when he came into the U.S. So if, you know, Beverly, if you're a U.S. citizen, your husband has unlimited green card options and visas available to him. So you can adjust his status, if he is in the United States. So I don't know if he's in the United States or not. So if you can clarify for me, if he's not in the United States, his visa is his visa. He can travel here. And usually most people will get a 6-month stamp when they travel here. So it depends on if you're doing an adjustment of status or if you're doing consular process for him. Okay, good morning, Nadia on Facebook. So Lady B says, I filed with my children on VAWA, but did not give them their EAD. Please, can I call them? First of all, you cannot call anybody if you have a VAWA case. There's nobody to call. If you need to contact them, it has to be in written communication. Secondly, this is a common misconception. If your children are listed in your I-360, your children are just derivative applicants. They're not going to get a work permit. So if that is the situation with you, your children will not be getting a work permit. However, if your children live here in the United States and you specifically applied for adjustment of status for them, as well as a 765 EAD on the basis of that adjustment, then your children should get a work permit. And if that is the case, then you have to write a letter to them to find out what's going on with your kids' stuff, okay? So Nadia says, I need help getting divorced. I have a pending VAWA case and I'm ready to be free from him. Nadia, unfortunately, we don't handle divorce cases. I suggest that maybe you do a Google search on your state or your city to see if you can find any attorney that handles family or divorce cases. You can also try avvo.com. Usually you're able to type your zip code and then it will list out, you know, some of the places where, you know, some of the lawyers who handle divorce in your state, okay? So Mimsy said, is it normal for an I-485 green card interview response to still be pending for over 1 year? No, that's not normal, but when that happens, it means that you're under investigation. Most of the time they're doing additional you know, investigation on you. So one of the things you want to be very sure of, be ready that you could have an unannounced USCIS guest where they could come to your workplace, they could come to your house, they could come to your neighbors, they can come to your landlords. Sometimes it could also be that they're verifying certain things in your record, like your, maybe if you have been previously married or filed for a B1, B2 outside of the US, checking what you completed in that form, checking if your marriage was legally terminated. So there are a bunch of things that go to that. And a lot of times with that 1 year timeline, you almost always will have a second interview, and that second interview would be a Stokes interview. And then for those of you who don't know what a Stokes interview, that's when they separate husband and wife and really go in on the questions. Nothing is basically off limits. Okay. Okay. So this person says, I've received my TPS and have pending VAWA, never received deportation. Can I travel if I have my AP? If you want to travel and you know for a fact that you don't have any, deportation pending, sure, you can. Okay, I'm gonna take one more question. I gotta jump off. I have a long day of meetings today. If there is a child that is not in the U.S. under 21 and is on a pending VAWA application but becomes pregnant, does that change the child's status? So are you saying that the child becomes pregnant? Well, if the child is under 21, the child is still covered. Obviously, once they age out and they're over 21, it then begins to go by priority date. What normally happens is, when you get approved for VAWA, you need to submit a different form. It's like a notice of action where you now say, USCIS, here I have an I-360 approved, and these are my children that are derivatives. So can you please transfer the case to NVC? And then when USCIS transferred it to NVC, with NVC, then you fill out the immigrant visa. Once you're documentary qualified, they will then send the person for an interview in their home country, and that's how they enter here. All right, guys. Well, I will be live. So I'm starting this Friday, I'm going to be going live at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. for the rest of the summer, just to accommodate my summer schedule, my children's, morning activities, drop-offs, and all that stuff. So I'll post that on later, just so you guys know. So change your time on Fridays. I'll be live at 1 p.m., which is great. You can have lunch during my live session. Again, if you want to schedule a consult with us, 407-995-6567. You can also send a WhatsApp to 404-333-8751. If you didn't catch it on Instagram, it's going to be in my profile. And obviously, if you're on YouTube and Facebook, you can see scrolling through the ticker. All right, guys, I'll talk to you guys on Friday. Have a great day. Bye.